I'd like to call to order the Fire District Board meeting of January 21st. Reminder, would everybody please silence their cell phone and put it away during the duration of the meeting. The meeting's only an hour. The world can get along without you for an hour. And Greg asked me to do this. We're adding the Pledge of Allegiance to our agenda, so would you
Madam
stand?
Secretary, roll call.
Oh, sorry. Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Aldrich.
Here.
Beckman.
Here.
Fox.
Here.
Verplank.
Here.
Phelps.
Here.
Meridian.
Here.
And Miller.
Here.
Okay, now will you join me?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda?
I'd like to request permission of the board to add a letter of resignation from one of the staff members that came in after the board was distributed, after the board packet was distributed. I would do it under 9E.
All right, is there any other additions or deletions? Okay, could I have approval of the agenda, please?
I'll make a motion to approve the agendas. As it stands.
Amended.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Phelps and a second by Fox to approve the agenda as amended. All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, could we have a motion to approve the minutes of the December 17th meeting?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of December 17th.
So a motion by Beckman and a second by Meridian. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Moving on to public comment, is there a member of the public that would like to speak at this time? Agenda items only. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Okay, moving on. We have a special guest speaker tonight, the audit review, Dan Felderhuisen of Secret Candle.
Thanks again for inviting me to your meeting every year. I always appreciate the opportunity to do that, and I appreciate the relationship we've had with the fire department for a long time. I think a couple of you are new, so I've met most of you, but my name is Dan Felderhuisen. I'm with Siegfried Crandall. We've worked with the fire department for probably 20 years now. I've seen a lot of changes over those years, but I would say that looking at the controls that are in place and the financial condition that the fire department is in as good a place as I've seen it in all those years. So things that look really good. We also appreciate the assistance we receive from Peter every year. I think you probably all know this already, but Peter does an excellent job and is always very responsive to our needs and very capable too. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but I want to talk about a couple key things that I think you should know from your auditor. Those are a couple of auditor-issued correspondence items that we have this year, as well as some comments about your financial condition. So if you have that document in front of you, especially for those of you who are new, I like to look at the independent auditor's report. For those of you who have heard me before, I don't want to bore you, but I like to talk about the auditor's report because that's what you hired us to do, to give an opinion on the financial statements. But it also talks about responsibilities. You'll notice those first 2 items that are bold. It talks about management's responsibility and the auditor's responsibility. This is a page immediately after the table of contents. Sorry to get ahead of you. I look at these things all day, every day. So on responsibility, I think it's really important for all of you to know that it's ultimately management's responsibility to prepare these financial statements along with the internal controls that go along with them. And it's the auditor's responsibility to express opinions. We're not here to do a fraud investigation. Not everything is perfect after we're done. We're giving an opinion about whether everything's in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. We've done that on the second page, under the heading called Opinions, where we say that the financial statements are presented fairly in all material respects. That's known as an unmodified opinion. But as I've said to you before, and I say many places I go to, 99.999% of all audit reports will read exactly like this and will be unmodified. The reason for that is because we as auditors keep giving management adjustments or corrections to their internal financial statements until we get to the point where we can give that opinion. So what's more important is for you to know how many corrections we made to the financial statements. And we addressed that in a separate letter that we issued. It's not bound in that document. It looks like you have it though. It's on our letterhead. That's exactly right, Grace. And I won't go through this word for word, but just wanted to point out a couple of things on the third page. The third page addresses internal controls, and it talks about the fact that there are some what we call material weaknesses. It's a terrible sounding term that I didn't come up with, but I think it's important that you all know what that means. The people that set the audit standards say that the same expectations are in place for the Saugatuck Fire Department as they are for GE. So if you get an audit, you shouldn't have any audit adjustments. I think that's an unfair expectation for any municipality in Michigan. It's not an unfair expectation for a publicly traded entity, but what we're saying here is that we had to make a couple of audit adjustments. This year we had a unique one related to grant revenue that had to be deferred, which was a little bit unique. And then we, every year, help Peter with recording the changes to the net pension liability that are challenging for us. Peter understands that very well, that it's a relatively new requirement to record the changes in your net pension liability related to the MERS plan, defined benefit plan, that now go in your financial statements. So we fully expect to help with those types of adjustments, and we do with all of the governments that we work with. So if you are a new board member and you see something called material weaknesses or control deficiencies, that sounds bad. I think it's an unfair expectation, and you have relatively few adjustments compared to most governments that I work with. Those are the auditor communications. And then just a couple of comments about financial condition. If you look at page 11, page 11 is a balance sheet or a picture at a point in time of your finances. We're well past the end of your fiscal year, but as of June 30, you can see total assets were $793,000. And I just want to direct your attention to fund balance, which was $679,000. Most board members ask me, what's a good fund balance to have? That's difficult for me to answer as an auditor. It's more important that your management answers that. But because I look at so many governments, I would tell you that that represents 60% of your current year's expenditures. Most people would tell you that if you have 25 to 50%, representing 3 to 6 months worth of expenses set aside for emergencies and other types of things, you're really healthy, so you're a little bit above the 50%. There's nothing wrong with that at all. There's no limit on how much fund balance you can have. You want to have a healthy amount, and 60% is, I would say, right where you want to be. Certainly not too low and definitely not too high. If you go over to page 12, that is a statement of revenues and expenditures which covers a fiscal period, the entire year, as opposed to a point in time. And it shows that revenues of about $1.2 million were greater than expenditures of $1.1 million. So your fund balance went up $100,000. There's nothing good or bad about a fund balance going up because you don't want to set aside too much in fund balance. But the main reason it went up is because of the increase in your millage rate. You went from 1.7 mils to 2.0 mils. So tax revenue went up, as did expenditures, but the tax revenue increase outpaced the expenditure increase. So that was a good thing to do, I think. And just one other comment on finances or financial position, page 24. Page 24 relates to that MERS plan, and now we're getting some history. It has had to be done for 4 years in a row now. The column to the left represents the most current fiscal year. Gives you a lot of detail here, but the first subtotal is the total pension liability. You've made promises to previous employees of about $468,000. you do have money set aside to cover that of $374,000, so your net pension liability is $94,000. So there is a liability, but it represents, funding is about 80%. And that's another one where you're right where you want to be, I would say. MERS, as a matter of fact, won't let you make any changes until you get to 80%. They'd really like to see you at 80%. Not too many of the municipalities I work with are at 80%. Most of them are a little bit lower than that, so you're also in a good position there. And the trend is positive over the last few years. There's no need for it to be 100% funded. It doesn't have to be fully funded. It really doesn't make sense to do that because some of these liabilities won't be paid for 10, 20, 30 years. So as long as you're at 80% funding, you're right where you want to be. So that's terrific too. I won't point to the specific places where it mentions it, but I know the last couple of years we've talked about budget variances and negative budget variances. There are none this year. So you did an excellent job with budgeting. It's right where it should be. So overall, things look really good. It's always fun for me to be able to say positive things like that. But I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have now. We always want you to know that we're available throughout the year if you have any questions or concerns that come up.
Are there any questions?
Looks like he's done a fine job again.
They have done a nice job.
Okay, thank you, Dan.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
I also appreciate the 4 o'clock meeting instead of 7 o'clock.
So do we.
Good idea.
You gotta appreciate you putting it early on the schedule too.
I appreciate that too. It's all good.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay, moving on. And that's great piece of information. No request for payment. I have a motion to approve the accounts payable.
I'll make a motion to approve the accounts payable of $85,215.41.
We have a motion by Phelps and a second by Fox to pay the bills in the amount of $85,215.41. Is there any discussion or question?
That roof, they repaired the roof on the back building, is that what the
Yes,
$14,000?
that was the original roof, and it was starting to seep. The fasteners had rubber washes underneath them.
They replaced
An
those.
external fastener roof, and it was starting to seep, so it was time to do it. We don't, from what we could tell, it was never roofed. So,
I thought we'd done it once, maybe it was this building.
I think it was coated,
That could be.
you know, like a paint type material, but the washers were deteriorating underneath there. So we added insulation on it and a rubber membrane roof.
Is that Shag Shop, there's 2 fairly good size, are they split with 6 districts since there's 6 of us in on the training?
That's right. It's the Live Fire Training Center, that is the welder fabricator.
Mhm.
So totally you're right, there's 7 total departments that contributed to the funding of the Live Fire Training Center.
Right, so that was
Usually-
just our share then, and everybody else had the same share.
No, what page are you on? Whatever the expense you see is a check written out of the
There was
pool
two,
of money.
there was two.
There's 2,
Right.
one's
Usually it's
2,500.
2,500.
Both were.
Right, they usually do a 50% payout, and it runs about $5,000 per unit,
Okay.
per container. However, we've had some exceptions based on a change. So that money comes out of what departments have deposited. That's just not our share.
Oh,
But the money's deposited.
it shows up as a check, okay.
Because we have care and custody of the account.
Mm-hmm.
So we pay the bills and we receive the revenue.
Anybody else?
Aaron Wilkinson, $1,070.
That was a payout. I didn't get a bill for months, you know, that's what it was. That was, I think, 4 months of working on projects. That was.
Not part of the
She did a year-end.
website.
Did a
and-
year-end. Well, one of them was, the website, and there was one other one. Drawing a blank on. Wasn't the
She did the video
appreciation letter.
for the side-by-side demo from the open house for us that is soon to be published. was quite a bit of time.
Something we don't pay her every month. She submits something because usually her frequency is so seldom.
The Holland Roofing is the one you mentioned back here.
Yes.
You know, it says roofing inspection.
We had a roofing back there, and then we have an annual inspection here. When they do the annual inspection, they clean the gutters right here too, so we don't have to be up there. And that was recommended to preserve the warranty. We did have one problem where this building to the south, where this rises up, we had a leak there. And they caught that inspection time.
So that 14K is both items.
No, that was back there, that should be $225.
Yeah, so it was 220, it's in their line item together, though. It was 14,216 for the back roof,
Yeah.
and then I believe you're correct, 225 for
For
the
this one.
roof inspection. They show up together the way the checks get cut, so.
Just when it shows up like that as a roof inspection, you go, okay.
Yeah.
$14,000.
Yes.
That'll become a roof inspection.
Wrong
business.
Well, it's just like this one where it shows up as postage and supplies for $5,000. That's a lot of
Right,
postage.
yes.
You get on the other
Stamps
page
are
and you
going up.
see.
Yeah, stamps went up.
They raised it.
Someone's gotta pay the government employees.
Yeah, very much. Okay. Anything else? So we have a roll call vote, please?
Absolutely. Phelps,
Yes.
Bach,
Yes.
Aldrich.
Yes.
Beckman.
Yes.
Verplank.
Yes.
Meridian.
Yes.
And Miller.
Financial report, Peter.
Hello. Well, people are paying their winter property tax bills, and that's where the fire department collects our revenue to pay the bills. They're starting to slowly come in. Basically, from our original budget, we've collected only 24% of the revenue through last week. And then the bills were 47% of the expenses of the budget. I don't know if anybody has any particular line item questions on the expenditures here.
Well, I
overall,
had one on the actual revenues.
Okay.
I might not be reading, but it looks like if you look at the first page here, we're ahead in several areas, such as plan review fees, we're already at 90%.
Yeah,
So-
yeah.
So does that mean by the end of the year, we're gonna have a ton more money?
Oh,
Or-
I don't, it depends, I mean, it depends where we're at. I mean, I don't know how, it's hard to say with the plan review and the cost
You-
recovery.
You pick a figure, you say, well, let's guesstimate we're gonna hopefully do more, but let's be conservative with expectations, we do $1,000 in cost recovery. We have no idea how to project how many plan reviews we're going to have.
Right.
We're going to receive, how many are submitted. So you kind of come up with a figure, well, what do we think is going to happen?
And those
But it
dollar.
is possible with this many months left, we could exceed that by a good amount, right? If you do a lot more plan reviews, or is it, I mean...
Well, based on a percentage of the budget, those bottom ones are 2% of the overall revenue of the budget, so it's not going to, it might show up here, the percentages to the far right is big, but
Yeah.
the dollar-wise compared to what everybody's paying on property, the property taxes are still
Okay.
driving probably 97%
Okay.
of the revenues here.
All right, I just wondered if it's seasonal type, up and down thing or what, but, okay, got it.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, moving on, fire chief comments?
Okay, I would like to go through the incident reporting, first of all. And I believe it was Eric who wisely suggested a summary of the year. And if I may, I'll pass these out here. I didn't want to load you up with too much information, but this is a brief summary of what we have here. Jane, you and I will share one, if you don't mind. So, we go through, one of the things I wanted you to know that Eric and I expanded the incident reporting. As you know, I'm data-driven, and one of the things I relish a lot about this, there's no limit to what you can do. We have a new program. Eric went to the webinar and shared with me some real excitement with the potential on expanding the charting, and we did as such, and you'll see in the review. Basically, we're up 12%, 94 calls ahead of 2017. And Stacy, I shared a lot of this with you. Types of incidents, 55% were EMS category. I can remember the days where, 60-65% were EMS. We have more precise reporting, so this is a more accurate figure. Motor vehicle incidents, known as MVI, saw another increase in 2018, both in incidents and extrication, where we had to pull somebody out. MVI call volume has increased by 23% over 2017. I think we are going to see, now we have mild weather up until now, but I think with all the elements of driving that we have, between the economy, distracted driving, people on the road, marijuana use, we had 2 of those in 10 days, we're starting to see a surge in this. So I anticipate that's going to continue to grow. Special events, we ended up with 57 as compared to 51 for 2017. Overlapping calls is important for the board to know. We're up 40 incidents, or a 21% increase, which staffing and equipment resources, you've got to keep that in mind. How do I cover all the calls? And Eric's got it displayed, Eric's got it displayed up on board too. Incidents per area shows a township at 37% of all areas, which shouldn't surprise anyone. That's the largest area. Response times, of course, I'm not following this, I'm just doing highlights, so we'll get back to that. Response times are up slightly, but we're still under 6 minutes. Interesting thing, this is something I added in. What do you predict is the biggest day of the year or the week for calls? Friday? So you don't know? So it's Saturday.
Weekend.
So there's a tendency, people don't want to work on the weekends. For us, that's a time we have to keep in mind, we've got to cover that. So again, allocation, justification, we've got to make sure that we have adequate staffing on Saturdays. Time of the day, 4 p.m. 5 p.m. being the second busiest time of the day. So it's interesting to know. So you can see how we came up with that. Eric charted call volume, time of the day. You can see 1600, which is 4 o'clock, 65 calls, and then 59 at 5 p.m. So it's just interesting to see when can I short staff, and that's not the time to do it. Neither is Saturday.
Do we put all this information together and give it to our municipalities?
These are brand new. Eric and I talked about this over the weekend, but
To hand out at the board meeting?
well, I usually give it to
I
Stacy.
reported it last month.
Right, do you get like a little booklet, this is year-end stuff, right?
This is year end.
So they
Right.
could really
I could.
go through it. Just hand it out and say, here's some reading material. They
Okay.
need to know.
We can do electronically, and then, which is what I usually do, or I can actually print, a folder for them.
Right. Yeah, I would definitely hand it out.
Usually they don't want all that paper.
Mhm.
And this is a pretty heavy year-end report. There's lots of stuff on here. So this is something Eric and I talked about. We kind of feed off of one another, and Eric is just a genius at charting, and the new software allows him to do this much easier, faster.
Why is it 4 o'clock, do you think, then?
Happy hour.
4:20?
Happy hour.
Happy hour, yeah.
Yeah, they're getting ready for happy
Uh-huh.
hour. There you go. Okay.
That may be. I think people are going home.
Oh, okay, all right. It's not school getting let out or anything on a Saturday, so.
Saturday, obviously, being a resort town, that doesn't surprise me. It's just interesting to compile the data and show you, rather than sitting here just guessing. Now you know, I can't short staff on a Saturday, which has been a real challenge in Saugatuck. We'll talk about that later, but basically fatigue and burnout are two things we have to be concerned about.
What is it in the morning? I mean, I would think 7 or 8 o'clock would be.
Eric's got that?
10.
So, yeah, just right that high. You know, when you wake up and
Yeah.
you're stiff.
It seems like to me the pager's always going off at 6 o'clock
Yeah.
at shift change where you go, oh, I hope Linus takes this and I don't have to go.
Yeah, it seems like that to me too, but I guess not.
But I think it's important to look at this and keep it in perspective on how do you allocate, how do you justify, and this certainly can help you.
Maybe it's 9 o'clock because we're old and retired and we don't get up till.
You're not awake, you just stumble and fall.
Oh, yeah.
Pour a hot coffee in your hand.
If we go to the next slide, Eric. Here's another one we came up with together, and that was if Dan Fox said to me, Greg, how many times did 2112 or Frontline Engine respond? There you go. You can see 2112, the second one, 181 times. That's our primary engine. This happened a couple of years ago. I had a staff member who said, I want to replace the brush trucks, brush 2 and 3. You see on there? And I said, wow, it doesn't seem like we use those trucks a lot.
What's a brush truck? I'm sorry.
Grass
For
fires.
grass fires.
Oh, okay.
It's a good question. It's a pickup truck. The DNR provides them. They're in the late 80s. They're old trucks. Heavily built, but the frequency is down, and they provide them. We have to maintain them. So I said, I don't recall that we use those trucks that much. It's probably 3 years ago. Eric ran the data. We showed less than 10 calls for both trucks. So my decision is, we're not putting the money there.
And brush trucks, basically, you just drive around when there's fire, woods on fire, that kind
Woods,
of thing. So you
woods or
don't
grass fires, correct.
scratch up
Right.
the nice.
And you know, you hate to buy a $40,000 or $50,000 pickup truck and take it off-road. Some departments do that, we don't. And the DNR have provided us heavily built vehicles. They're older diesels, they're hard to start, they come with a lot of quirks about them, but they were free.
We have 3 fire boats, is that?
We have the primary boat, the Morgan, which is the big one, the 41-footer. We have an 18-footer, 2192, and then we have a ice rescue high-speed boat as well. That third one is for ice, and it's a quick one. The other ones are real slow. And MDOT trailer, that last one, the 2124 trailer, was a collaborative resource project where MDOT loaned us. We have care and custody of that trailer, and they do an annual maintenance on it. They actually pay for it. But we have it. It's a big box trailer with an arrow sign on it. The Aeroboard trailers we purchased. There's 2 of them, jointly purchased, one in Hamilton, one here. That advantage of the MDOT trailer is lots of barricades. We actually used it in downtown Saugatuck for an event. We use it quite a bit in Hamilton for M40, blocking off all the intersections. Probably a $35,000 investment for them. And you can see POVs, personal vehicles. We track that, who came to what with a vehicle, what vehicle. So it shows 200 times people use their own vehicles.
We pay mileage for that?
No, Dan.
Just that?
No. No, sir, we don't.
We've had that discussion.
No. One of the reasons I think that the taxpayers get an exceptional value, we're not talking about once a month meeting, we're talking about 3-4 times a week. So that just gives you a profile of vehicle response. What else we have up there, Eric? We didn't talk about mutual aid. I'm sorry, I'm looking at the one. This is one we just created. Okay. I asked Eric, I said, wouldn't it be nice to separate if Eric Beckman said, how many times did you receive mutual aid? How many times did you give it? Now, there's two differences. Aid given is different from automatic aid. Our mutual aid agreements that are automatically written are primarily for fires. It means when there's a fire page in Ganges that happened yesterday morning, we're automatically dispatched. Whereas auto aid, hey, we need you out on the highway for Hamilton. So there's a difference there between that. You would think we're the number one fire department that responded, that we would be the recipient of calls. Eric, you had an interesting perspective on that.
Yeah, because we have to look at our group of fire departments. We have 5 departments in that group, and let's take an example that we have, let's say for the sake of an easy explanation, we all 5 fire departments have 10 fire calls that triggers mutual aid. So we will receive 10 automatic aid received. But if all the other fire departments each have 10, we will give 40. That's the whole concept behind the automatic mutual aid. We will always go out to these other 4 departments, and they come to us. So that's why you see a very natural difference in automatic aid received and given, because we give to 4 other departments.
And more departments, Holland even reached into contracted agreement with Grasscup Fire to engage Grasscup a lot more. So Grasscup's running to Holland quite a bit. Their call volume's gone from 450 to 670 calls. And remember the day when Grasscup was maybe 300 calls. So what you have before you is call volume for the entire county for fire departments. I got that from Allegan Central. One of my guys put it sequentially. And Otsego has a much bigger population than us, and we surpassed Otsego. Grasscup is way up there at 673. This just gives you a perspective of what do the other Allegan County fire departments do. I think there's 20 departments. And this was provided by Allegan County.
Calls from Grasscup.
Yeah, they're getting slammed. They hired another full-time person. I was just talking to the fire marshal from South Haven. They are hiring a fire inspector. They have a short-term rental ordinance now, and they have 500 registered. They had to hire a guy just for the short-term rentals. Just interesting to see the comparison. Eric, can we show property values on the screen, please? I think one that the board would be interested in seeing. The state fire marshal brought this up Monday. Chris and I were in a state community risk reduction meeting with the state fire marshal, and he talked about property values. The preceding one, please. There we go. So just about $3,900,000, and you'll see the breakdown of where that came from on the next slide. But this is important. You know, what are you guys spending all this money for? This helps with justify the existence of a fire department. What do? You document, what did you save? You had a potential loss, like yesterday we went to Ganges, the house was burned to the ground. Just down to the ground. Total loss. And when you do have a save, you like to keep track of that. And then the next slide, please. And this just shows you the incident and the values and things like that, whether it's a gas leak, we found, I think Chris found 2 substantial gas leaks, 2018, that were huge saves. Again, just interesting to see where it fits in. The one I want to send out now, please, if I may, this is developed by the state. I think it's in your packet. Let me pass that out. And, yeah. Share yours. I got one. So, the fire marshal's data-driven as well. His office is, and what's interesting is, what's the #1 cause of deaths in Michigan? Fire fatalities, smoking. You would think it's cooking, but cooking is the #1 cause of fires. Fire deaths is smoking in this day and age. We still have that. Time of the day, when do these fires occur? Can I shorten my staff at night? Because the call volume was what? 4 to 5 in the afternoon, right? But look at the fire deaths. Time of the day, 34%. Midnight to 6 o'clock in the morning. You see where I'm going with this? It's interesting to see. We have 135 deaths and 103 fires. That's terrible. Who are the age groups? A lot of us fit in here, except for maybe Aaron. Okay? 40 to 60, what are you, 29 years old or something? This yellow age group. You know what I mean, right? So 46% of the fire deaths are 40 to 69 years old. I'd like to know that, because certainly I'm in that group. All right? And 60% of the known fatal fires originated in the bedroom or the living room. No smoke alarms in living rooms. So these are the types of things we like to look at. Here's one that really disturbs me. It's this 41% left-hand side, second item, increase over the total known residential fatal fires in 2017 is 41%.
Are you recommending, I've noticed that in your letter, to have every bedroom have a smoke alarm now? Because I had
Always.
heard that.
That's code.
That's code.
Is it really?
When my house was built in '87,
Uh-huh.
it was strictly hallway.
That's all we have, yeah.
But it's sleeping, because a lot of people sleep with the door closed, or you want that warning in your bedroom.
Hmm.
You don't want it down the
Better
hall.
get the fire department over to my house.
Yes, you can.
I know. That's what I've heard. I'll
There's a
go
link
ahead.
in that letter of how to sign up for it.
I think this is important data, because what we can do with this is, on a state level, is what can we do to make this better? And that's the reason to be on the Community Risk Reduction Task Force, which is, the name's being changed to My Prevention. That's not so important, it is what our mission is, and our mission is to reduce fire deaths. Well, to do that, you've got to identify the problems. The state fire marshal's office got a grant for over $500,000 for smoke alarms. And there's a huge campaign to get those off the shelves into the houses. You know, areas like Detroit and Flint are very challenging. Grand Rapids probably installs 30,000 smoke alarms in a year, because their crews are out there day after day. They run a call and they do smoke alarms. So, to me, this is important, being data-driven, identifying what do you need to change. And this, on a state perspective, you have the data. And I think that covers my incident reporting. Any questions on that? Okay, thank you. Next, as you know, community risk reduction, we are going to the school. Chris was kind enough to do the introduction on a new program. The State Fire Marshal announced this Monday, and it's a Press the Test video campaign where every student tests their smoke alarm and has it videotaped with their mom, dad, or caretaker. You can see an example up there with Chris.
Oh, I tested it, we'll need it later. while I'm down on the computer here.
Over at Fire Days.
It's okay. I think they get.
Firefighter Lane. All right, there you go.
Start it over one more time.
Sure.
Hi, I'm Chris Mantle, this is my mom Joyce, and we're gonna do the Texas Touch Challenge today. It's important to issue Texas smoke alarms monthly and have working smoke alarms in your bedrooms and outside of every sleeping area on every floor level of the home. So as part of the Mother Pig Challenge, we're gonna go ahead and press the test. I was challenged by Kyle Silva. And after this gets done, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna challenge Lieutenant Jeff Knowles, Sergeant Mike England, and Firefighter Lane Rigola to do the same with your mom today. Thanks, have a great day.
So what we're getting is every student pre-K through 5th grade is going to generate one of these videos. It'll be online. We've already got them coming in. And phenomenal. Chris did the introduction. You'll see in your packet a letter that was composed. And we brought this to Michelle Gust, who's one of the finest principals ever, and she jumped on board on the campaign. I think we're the first school to do it in Michigan, and we're going to get it done. We hope to get all 350 students, and we'll have an ice cream social, which will be provided by, I think, somebody donating the ice cream to the school. So it'll be posted. But that's our initiative that we're focusing on this year. My grandson did one and pushed it, and they were filming it with Sean and Jill and my grandson, and the smoke alarm didn't work.
Make sure that's on the website.
So they have a redo. We went through number 3, the state of Michigan, 135 fires. So next up, please, Chris Bernhardi had to go home and babysit. Chris Bernhardi has achieved Fire Officer 3 rating, all on his own time, weekends, highest level in Michigan. He now has Fire Officer 3 certification, as all of our fire officers. So, you know, way to go, Chris. Grant updates. Chris, why don't you want to bring those up?
Sure. So as part of the Allegheny County Training Committee, these are basically free of charge. So there's grant money available through fireworks funding. So the money that you pay if you buy fireworks from a vendor goes into a pool at the state. Leftover money at the state fireworks fund is available for firefighter training. And I don't know, they don't even have the amount listed as what's currently available, but as a county training committee, we applied for a total of 4 grants that we basically are just participating in as one of the 20 departments in the county. So it cost us nothing. I spent probably 3 hours on a Sunday afternoon writing all 4 grants for the county training committee. And so it's absolutely worth the time. The forcible entry simulators is about $18,000, and then the other 4 altogether are about $6,000 in classes. So if we can bring in close to $25,000 for free to the county just by spending a couple hours of filling out some forms, it's absolutely worth it. And then our personnel would be allowed to participate in the ag rescue classes or pump classes. And then if we're awarded the forcible entry door simulators, those will go around to different departments in the county for continued training. So we'll see what happens.
Great job on that, Chris.
Can I ask, what is agricultural rescue?
So the agricultural machine rescue is primarily if there's somebody stuck in like a grain bin, of how there's specialized equipment to be able to dig them out without hurting them in the like corn continuing to collapse on them, or someone potentially trapped in a combine or a tractor rollover incident. It's not something we typically would deal with in a regular vehicle or automotive crash. There is specialized equipment and training to be able to get someone out of those. That not many of them, I mean, we don't run into very often, but in, over Isle and Hamilton, they see that quite a bit more often.
Or they're caught in a combine.
Yeah.
We did lose someone a year or 2 ago, wasn't it, in one of those combine things?
Yeah, wasn't it out by the Red Barn? or
Yeah,
something?
somewhere
Remember
out
that?
there.
Could have been Grastup's jurisdiction, we didn't have it.
No. Dang
Oh, that was the molasses.
That was it.
That's
What was
it,
it?
the molasses.
Yeah, the guy.
Right,
Yeah.
you're right, grass cup off
Yeah.
of Blue Star.
Yep.
Somebody fell in the vat.
Yeah.
Good memory, yeah. Yeah. I don't know, some of you may not be aware, we just heard a call today from Grass Cup, our neighbors to the north. They had a horse through the ice.
Horse.
They asked for the rescue horse through the ice. They're on it now.
They just talk about when they cut ice that way. It's like the winter, away from the summer. And the worst thing that could happen was to yell a horse in the lake and guys come running from the back and the horse was like a car.
Stand by for help.
Wow.
Okay, so we got that all done. I'm gonna pass out this, I got Friday, if you'd like to see this from Brent Van Oz, I'll give you a couple of minutes to take a look at it, see if you have any questions.
Central clearing that in and out.
They just got dispatched for a bull through the ice at another farm.
Oh, no.
No kidding.
They got a plan.
Right,
Yeah.
now they know how to get them out. Yeah.
At least you got the word for
Yeah. Hope he's not a mean bull.
Which one is it?
Seven 35 in service, we had 3.
So I guess, obviously, we're saddened about this, we understand it, Brent's parents are getting elderly.
Hey, she was in my class.
And Blair was at your
I was
time.
We're going to bowl in the
What's the old saying, open mouth exchange foot?
Okay, Brent's parents have some medical challenges.
There you go.
And, working, every Wednesday night, working, every fifth weekend is taking its toll on many of us, including Brent. And he really needed to scale back. As you know, he'll be working a shift where essentially he's working 9 days a month. And could even have a secondary job. He applied, was completely transparent, told me he was sending an application to Gerald Ford Airport. Subsequently, they chose him, and he'll be starting February 1st. So Brent's been with us a long time. I think he was hired full-time when I had left.
Yeah.
And I worked with him as a paid-on-call probably 17 years ago. Good man, we're gonna miss him. I will reply to this, I just want to let you all know first.
When I started as board chair, we were in a bit of a turmoil at that point, and Brent was really my go-to man. It really helped me out a great deal, holding the fire department together through the whole transition of chiefs. Did I say that nice?
Very nice.
Through the transition of chiefs and everything else in the building. And he was really a great deal of help. I met with him on Friday, and we discussed his leaving the department. I understand. And told him it takes time, think about whether he wanted to come back here part-time and help out. He was willing to do that, but he's going to take a little time, so.
Well, he was really very positive about coming back and being a paid-on-call, which is great. If you work for Grand Rapids Fire Department, you can't, but at the airport, you can. So we don't want to lose another firefighter. We have a Grand Rapids firefighter in Douglas that's not allowed to work in our community, and that's really tough. She's very experienced, and she's not allowed to. And we have a lot of money invested in Brent, and he has a lot of money invested in us. So we're hoping that he can navigate through the balances of life with elderly parents or...
With medically challenged parents. Thank you.
And,
She was a year older than I was now. Sometimes you want to
Next
rescue
year,
them.
it's not the model years, it's the miles, we all know that.
You don't have any more feet left.
Any questions?
Well, I don't think, I mean, we owe Brian a big thank you. I don't feel like this is one of the guys we've trained and 2 years later he's off running to get another job. Brian's been vested in the department
Good point.
forever, so good to him. The only other thing I will say is I respect Brent's recommendation of Chris, but I also think we need to go through the proper procedures, especially because there's nepotism
Well, that's what
involved and things like
yeah,
that.
I'm gonna stay away from that.
Yeah, I
thing,
think
because
that's
I'm
a
not
good
gonna go
point.
through what happened before, so. All of Chris Bernardi's, promotions, recommendation for officer, recommendation to lieutenant, I was out of that whole thing, and I went to my officers.
Maybe they don't even know.
Oh.
Don't know what you're talking about.
Chris is married to Greg's daughter.
He was hired, I wasn't with the department, and he was hired by the previous administration to be on call. And Chris has been kind of filling those voids where medical leaves and family leaves and all that, vacation, and has been, you know, an interest in that. Very well.
It's important to know that.
Isn't he part-time already, or not? No? Oh, I
He is
thought
very
was.
well.
So the job would be posted. Chris has already started redoing a job description we have for Brent, and that person will be required to be an emergency vehicle technician, not a mechanic. He's a firefighter first, an EMT second. All that other stuff is just fill-in. So the job would be posted, you know. I prefer internal people. He's been here 9 years, invested in the community, and I'm not quick to go out if I don't have to. However, I'm going to have people on a committee make a recommendation, so that I'm not selecting certain people.
Well, I think in this type of business, there's always nepotism because, I mean, think about the firefighters. How many of these guys, my grandpa was a firefighter.
Right.
My dad's dad was a firefighter. I mean, it just happens in this line of work.
Community fire departments aren't gonna survive. We had Jeff Dornbush and his daughter Kaylee on.
Yeah.
So Mike Block and John Block, we have that whole element that without families, you're not gonna have much of a community fire department.
Right.
So it depends what you want, but he has invested a lot of time. Officer school is a year, on your own time, unpaid.
And he did it all.
And he did it all, just like John and Chris and Linus and myself. Kyle? Yep, Kyle, I'm sorry, Kyle. You're so short, I can't see you.
What is the timeline to, I mean, I'm sure we want to replace them as quick as we can.
Right.
There's not a rush, but
Well,
it
there
is
is.
good to replace them. I mean, we've been using Chris as a part-time fill-in, so, you know, we can fill in wherever we want to with them. There's not a rush to the finish line, but I would like to see us do this correctly, so there's no...
I think this board needs to take a good, long look at the staffing in general.
And that...
I mean, obviously Greg puts up the overlapping calls, and it's good ammunition for us when we go to our municipalities that we need more help.
Well, and there is a staffing survey being done right now with the department, and we don't have the results of that survey yet. It is complete, and we're working on the results now to present. So we are, it's, you know, really it is the perfect
Perfect time to take a good, hard look at it.
And we already started taking a look before Brent left us, so.
Right.
So it looks, it's a good time to look at staffing.
I agree with you.
And how we run.
Scheduling is gonna be the most important thing. How do we do the 24-hour, 7-day week? We're looking at that now, different staffing models. But, you know, I'd like to get something done in 60 days,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, you'll be ready for the busy season.
Yeah, we want to
Right.
have our ducks in a row. Some kind of quacky.
That concludes Chief's comments. I'm ready
Okay.
for the next one, if that's all right with you.
All right, but I
Oh, yeah.
have something I'd like to say. It was funny, at the last city council meeting, I was reappointed to the fire board, and I remember 6 years ago when I was appointed to the fire board, I'm like, oh my God, this is like a life sentence. 6 years.
Tell me about it.
And, wow, I can't tell you how fast 6 years has gone. And, also, I was in a 911 board meeting last week in the county, and this is how far Saugatuck Fire has come. When I started on the 911 board, the fire service was known as dysfunctional, is that not what they called us? The fire service was totally dysfunctional, and the county did not like to deal with us whatsoever in any way, shape, or form. And I think we owe a lot of this to Greg, but a lot of it to hard work that, in the last meeting, they were discussing a committee for MCTs and who got what and who paid for it, and they're setting up a committee. And there was a discussion, some people didn't think fire needed to be on that committee because we don't use MCTs and we don't
That's a
really-
computer in the car.
we don't really need them. And the consensus was that fire would be on the committee, that they would chime in. They don't need them right now, but there may be a time in the future when they do need them, and they wanted the input from fire. 6 years ago, they would have kicked us out the door. So that's how far we've come. I mean, it's really impressive, and Greg's name comes up at every meeting, and they wanted to know why you weren't there the last time. I'm sorry, I left them home. And Greg has really brought the whole fire service to the forefront as far as Allegan County goes, and I think he deserves a lot.
He certainly does.
Thank you.
He's come a long ways.
Yeah.
Really,
Linus got on, and Linus got on.
Right.
the whole team of Saugatuck Fire, which includes the board, you know, because we're nothing more than a team, Saugatuck is on the map in the county, and they are looked at. They're the largest responding department, as you've seen, and there's a lot of, you know, what would Saugatuck do on this? So there's a responsibility with that, but it is thrilling to see how the chiefs have unified from the sense of even using the same command boards. That would have happened years ago. And Allegan County, it's a very cherished relationship between the county and the fire service. And you gotta give credit to the chiefs as well for at least saying, yeah, they aren't the bad guys, because it was very adversarial. I think, Scott, you know that more than others. You were involved in that bitterness between law and fire. Everyone's their own island, no one's working together. 3 different radio systems that the taxpayers are all paying for. And those days are gone, because you must be innovative in public safety. And we've been fortunate enough to be involved in Allegan County. And the way they've demonstrated it to you, most of all, is they gave you a radio system.
That was huge.
You know, $8.5 million radio system, and one that works.
And Saugatuck Fire took a huge leadership role in that. Greg did, Chris did. Chris reprograms everybody's radios and pagers every 5 minutes, it seems like, but he spends a lot of his own time straightening out this new radio system, and I think we are almost there, so kudos to Saugatuck Fire.
Thank you for that.
All right, moving on. Unfinished business?
Just short, if I may pass that out, please. Yeah. So we had talked, but we held off because Aaron and Kathy had commitments, couldn't be here. So basically, what you have before you is a spreadsheet. I assigned this to Chris Bernardi, and one of the things we assigned to him, and call around, and a lot of departments don't even have Board of Appeals, and these were the numbers that he was able to retrieve. You can see Holland is at the forefront. So as much as that cost us, and it did cost us a considerable amount of money, you know, Saugatuck at $400, is in there. Keep in mind, like Holland has had one appeal in 12 years. South Haven, I think it's been 15 years, had an appeal. South Haven isn't even on here. I talked to him last week.
And we had one appeal.
We had one appeal in 17 years I've been here.
Did any of them have escrow accounts that they required? Or they just do a flat fee? Right.
Upon application, submittal of application. And I remember Kathy sent me an email that was in my spam. And
Oh, really?
Yeah, I saw it like
Finally?
2 weeks
Okay.
later. And
Chris program your computer.
Yeah.
Well,
right.
I felt like it should be.
And Kathy, and I don't want to speak for you, had echoed, she says, you know, I hate to see it raised, you know, people have the right to appeal. It was a frightful amount of money. And sometimes you can only get people to pay attention to things with their wallet. So I'll leave this up to the board.
Well, what did it cost?
Well, they wiped out our legal fee, which was $15,000, maybe $13,000 of it. Insurance company was $4,500. You have no idea about the hours we put into it. It was a lot of money for an appeal.
I guess my question is, how much of that quote-unquote is startup costs? Because it was the first time we've ever had one. Now that we have things in
Right.
place, we're not gonna be spending 14 grand or whatever again.
$5,400 was for the lawyer to assist the appeal. Lawyer
Did we
to
ever
assist
talk
the-
about
Said 17,
shifting the weight of
15.
that, any of that? to the-
What's that?
Have we ever, I thought we talked at one point in time about shifting financial weight of that or responsibility for some part of that.
We talked about
Over to
having
the,
an
over to the
escrow,
applicant.
an escrow account, and then anything above, beyond that, billing them.
Part of
I
the
don't know if you can
reason,
get
part of the
away with
reason I
that.
think if there's a way to do it, it makes sense, because, I mean, we all know situations where you get a really well-heeled developer, property owner, whatever, and for them, $15,000, peanuts. But they know it's not for you, and they behave that way. So if there's a way to, you
But-
know,
but
make sure that they, you know, that they can't just run you ragged and run you dry, because at some point, we're gonna say, well, we can't spend $50,000 a year on legal fees for this kind of stuff, even if it is only one applicant a year.
That was in 6 months.
But.
But then there's the little guy.
Yeah, that's what I'm concerned
And
about.
if most of it's 17 years, 15,
The
you
little
look at,
guy.
Well, I'm
yeah,
not
we lost
suggest-
money, but
I'm not
it'll-
suggesting that it be included in the fee. I'm suggesting that it might be included in some sort of cost recap after the event.
I mean, if it's denied, then...
Either way.
I don't-
Like if they lose, pay some fees, that sort of thing?
Well, not so, yeah. I mean, I agree with you. You can't, I would not load a big number into the front. You'd probably get challenged in court on that anyway. But if,
I would guess your idea would be legally challenged if we, as a board, the three of us, know that if we deny something, we can charge them more money. That looks a little sketchy to me.
Yeah.
You've got a good...
I mean, I know what you're saying, because you don't want them just to steamroll us either. There's gotta be a little skin in the game.
If they know that if they're that unscrupulous, they do it anyway. It wouldn't matter if
Well,
it
amen to
were
that.
400, 800, they're just gonna run us dry if that's their attitude, I would think. And I don't think too many have that attitude, but maybe I'm naive.
Maybe keep it $400 for the year and reevaluate it next January.
Yeah.
We can reevaluate.
You always raise,
Yeah.
you always raise them.
Or change it, you know.
Personally, I'm okay leaving it at 400 until we have a case that's more than once every 17 years.
Yeah.
You know, like if it becomes a
pattern.
I
something people
agree.
really start to take advantage of, then we should look at it, but if it's $400 now,
Okay.
and it's one case in 17 years.
What
The
what
only-
about the percentage of the project?
I mean,
Okay, let's say Boscraft is doing a $10 million, I mean, you know, and Joe Blow's gonna do $100 or $100,000 addition. Should they both be paying the same amount? Well, I think the little guy, as she said, a percentage of the project. I don't know if we could come down to that and figure that actual number of the project. You know, say, hey, it's 1% of the project.
To me, this is like liability insurance. You don't, nobody even thinks about it until you get $1 million fall in your driveway or something like that, and then all of a sudden you're calling insurance agents and saying, what am I covered, what am I covered? I don't think it's unreasonable, and I'd be interested in whether an attorney could address it. I don't think it would be unreasonable as part of the appeals setup to have the applicant required, win, lose, or draw, to pay half of the district's expenses.
Did Jeff weigh in on this, Brett?
I wanted direction from the board before I engaged in the bill.
I mean, because there, if you're talking about, you know, Joe Blow wanting to add onto his garage or whatever the hell it is, it's some little thing, we're not, half of our, on an ongoing basis, half of our cost, he doesn't, you know, bring in 5 attorneys and all the rest of this, and it's probably, heck, it's probably within the original fee, the cost, so it wouldn't even kick it off. As I say, I'm worried about, I don't want to use any names, but I'm worried about deep pockets people. And it only had, so my worry is we don't have, it won't be a case, it potentially won't be a case of, you know, little by little by little people start to take advantage of it. It can be one that comes in with lots of zeros, and all of a sudden we're up against the wall, really up against the wall. And by definition, if it's a thing like that, it's going to be a project of great community importance. It's going to be a, whatever it is, it's going to be a hotel, it's going to be, you know, $30 million on the lakefront or whatever, where it's going to be in their interest to try and get it to come out their way and to pay to make that happen. So I just think we at least owe the constituents or the jurisdictions the sense that, you know, we're going to try and not let that happen, or try and put a plan in place that doesn't allow that to happen, doesn't allow the fire district to be effectively bank robbed by a deep pockets owner or developer.
Yeah, but I just question why, I mean, with a lot of this startup costs, because we never had one before. So everything we did, we sent to. Yeah, I mean, even the wording on the, everything went there. Now it's in place. What would it cost us now, us three on this appeals board, if they came with the same situation, we looked at it and basically said, our same agreement, it would cost us.
So if we denied it, they would move on to circuit court, no doubt, but then our insurance company would kick in.
Right.
So.
Did we really need Jeff Sloggett here sitting with us when we made the appeals?
Probably one lawyer letter and another one, and everybody reads them, and the board decides, end of it.
So that's what I guess, now looking back, or moving forward, if we have another appeals, how much is it gonna cost us?
It shouldn't cost us a bunch.
Well, and this.
Not near, nothing, I mean.
And this was kind of at the end of a perfect storm as well by this particular builder, so maybe not, I don't know. If this happened a lot in a year, then I guess we would have to look within to make sure the code was being interpreted correctly.
Well, yeah, that we would ask these guys, are you doing it right? I mean.
Yeah, so.
I think what you have, here's the deal. The code is adopted by ordinance. If a municipality, there's a reason that usually there are not appeals, because the jurisdiction stands behind their ordinance. And they don't, it's hard for that jurisdiction to come up with a reason not to follow a minimum standard. There's a reason for it. And that's why you don't see the frequency of appeals in Holland and South Haven, because those municipalities stand behind their ordinances. You know, zoning, that could be arbitrary. Okay, I get that. A residential home, we're not gonna be involved in appeal. We might be involved in a driveway, but that's never happened at all. Usually a commercial project. But typically, the jurisdiction's supportive of their very own ordinance. That's why you don't see appeals. We call it around. I don't even know what appeal fee is, because we don't have appeals. That's the atmosphere.
So in other words, if the municipality would set the parameters up correctly, so to speak, we wouldn't have any
Yeah.
issues.
That
In a nutshell.
Yeah, the zoning administrator, just as an illustration, or the city manager says, hey, if you want to build this, follow our adopted ordinances and you can build it. Follow that, and you will get C of O. And I think that's what's important to realize, that has to follow, it has to start with the municipality.
That's what failed us this last time.
That is correct.
When Dune Grass was built, when Mr. Barker walked in the door, the city manager told him, you follow the ordinances to the letter, and you won't have any difficulties. And he has amazingly enough, he has a great subdivision, followed all the rules, he put in $1 million worth of infrastructure, just in water,
And no appeals.
and no appeals. I mean, but they made it very clear, you follow the rules, you'll get what you need.
And Douglas is like that as well.
Yeah.
I mean, Douglas is building a 31-unit development off of Wiley. They could knock it down to 30 homes, but no, they're gonna do 31, all sprinkled. I mean, that is huge.
That is.
Every residential house sprinkled, because there'll only be one ingress. You know, so you don't have, well, here's a way to get around it.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
I think we're kind of safe. You're never completely safe, but
Try it for a year and see what happens.
yeah, I think we'll be all right. Just my opinion. So, do we want to go for the $400? Is that,
I think that sounds fair.
yeah,
Looks average compared to everyone else.
Mhm.
Construction board, I know that, but
okay.
try
I
it
think
for a year and see what happens.
We'll need a motion.
I'll make the motion to accept to set the fees for the Board of Appeals at $400 for an application.
Okay.
We have a motion by Felton, second by Meridian, to set the fees at $400 for the 2019 year, with a review at the end of the year. That's what you said, right?
Sure, that's what I said, sure.
And
You read my mind.
I knew I did.
Like a well-trained husband.
That's what Vicki says.
I've never had one of those.
So you're the beneficiary.
Okay, so, is there any discussion beyond the well-trained? Okay. All right,
It doesn't need to be voted on by the Board of Appeals, does it? The fire board is over the board.
no, the fire board sets the fee.
Okay, good.
All right, so this has money involved with it, so could we have a roll call vote?
Sure. Phelps?
Yes.
Meridian?
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Verplank?
Yes.
Fox?
Yes.
Beckman?
Yes.
And Aldridge.
Yes. All right, moving on.
thank you.
New business. We have funding
have,
approval request from, we have some funding approval requests. Go ahead, Craig.
So, the first one is for the initial attack. Chris Mantles, once again, did a superb job on the justification for water supply hose. As you can see, we have some very old hose. We have gotten grants for hose. Grant is difficult. Matter of fact, that $42,000, it's not even up there. We got $42,000 for hose the last time, for a large diameter hose. This is 4 1 3/4, up to 3-inch hose. So you have before you a request to approve to replace our outdated, obsolete hose. Funding sources, the capital plan, Chris wisely explains it in here, the difference in price, and the funding sources of the cap plan and the budget.
I'll make the motion. I understand the motion.
Yes. Please make a motion.
I move to authorize, make a motion, move to authorize fire district staff to purchase the 89 lengths of the Mercedes fire attack and supply hose with a not to exceed amount of $20,005.
I'll second.
Okay, have a motion by Fox and a second by Beckman to approve $20,005. Is there any more discussion on this? Can we have a roll call vote, please?
Sure. Bach?
Yes.
Beckman?
Yes.
Aldrich?
Yes.
Verplank?
Yes.
Phelps?
Yes.
Meridian?
Yes.
And Miller?
Yes.
The second request, the fire board, is to convert the T8 fluorescent lighting fixtures in the truck bays in both buildings to LED lighting throughout the entirety of the front station and back station. We've lost balances, I won't bore you with that, but we've got to make a decision. Are we going to fix these fixtures? The consensus unanimously is, let's replace these fixtures. So we really feel that if you're going to replace fixtures, they need to be LED. There's a safety factor. I didn't really put much into this, but, you know, going up on a ladder, we lived with 10 months of a guy who fell off a ladder. So we're going to have the electrician put these up. Hopefully we never have to go up to these fixtures on the ceiling, because in the truck bay, we've got some elevated heights there. So we look at this as environmentally sensitive, sound, it's good fiscal management. So we're asking you to allow us to upgrade the fixtures, and we're going to put occupancy sensors in. You know, I love my team, but I can't tell you how many times I go downstairs. And Mr. Manos knows how I feel about this, because he goes nuts too, and all the lights are on. Anybody in here? Nobody's in here.
Sounds like my kids.
So, yes,
Sounds like my dad.
Boy, that kind of cut them off.
We do have some teenage firefighters here that like to leave lights on, and I don't mean to be petty, but, you know, I treat this like I treat my house, and I don't leave lights on. And they're a lot of money. So, that's the drawback. But I
That
asked you
makes sense.
to consider occupancy sensors and upgrade the lighting to LED.
I do have, and I don't mean to be picky either, but
No.
it just seems so high. I don't know. You have to replace every single fixture. You can't just put LED bulbs in. That's what I do in my lamps. I just replace, it costs me hundreds, but I replace the whole house.
Well, you don't
Not
have...
the whole fixtures,
You
and
can
not the whole...
you can retube it. You can retube the fixtures. There's a lot of fixtures down there. And it also includes all this, not just the truck bay. That's all
Oh,
this.
it just seems so high. The $16,700 divided by the 20 years, you get about $800 back a year according to this write-up. That's 20 years to pay for it. And then it says you need to do it again. So you haven't gained, it doesn't seem. Maybe my math's off.
No, you know, and that's a good point, Kathy. That's not the return on investment. We didn't even define that, to be quite frank. We didn't define return.
Because
We're
I
just
know
gonna
you
say
couldn't
it's-
on the occupancy
you don't see
sensors.
You don't see a return on investment on this, because we just thought it was essentially like a no-brainer. We thought this is the way to go. LED lighting is a fraction of the
For it.
wattage.
I'm green
But-
and all that.
No, but
Okay.
we
But their light
didn't
bill
look
is
at
half
it in that
better.
capacity. We looked at it as the fixtures, we're losing fixtures, they've got to be changed. We don't want to put another ballast up there with T8 fluorescent,
Mhm.
and then take the glass tubes down, throw them in the dumpster, we didn't want to get into that whole environmental thing. We didn't do an RIT because we believe it's going to show you're going to get payback. I mean, we can if you want, and we can do it next year, next month.
20,000 for that,
Well,
just struck me a lot, I mean, 60.
Does this get bid?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was the better of the bids from multiple electricians.
Right.
In fairness to answer your question, because we went through this the other day and had the same confusion, you actually can only take the 20 years by the 10,500 for the LEDs themselves.
Yeah, I know,
You can't
but the
really
others,
include the
that's it.
occupancy sensors because they're two totally separate projects. And so actually, the cost over 20 years is $525 a year, which is about what we're saving on the electric bill. So in the end, it's actually almost a wash for doing it. I package them together just because they're going to come at the same time and do it all.
And we didn't just do it from the return on investment perspective. I'll parallel the project. We own, as a county, 4 antenna systems in Allegan County. Those systems have incandescent lights, if you can believe it, those antennas. To move the switch into LED is about $30,000, okay? And it's like, why would you send somebody up, a climber up 400 feet to change a bulb up there when you can do LED and be done with it? Plus, they don't have to paint the towers. We just looked at the fact that everything we're starting to convert to LEDs, but quality LEDs, not all LEDs are the same.
Yeah.
And we seem to be having more hours of operation. You know, we're looking at 24-hour staffing, where, you know, the return on investment might be even, you know, quicker. But it's a very good point, legitimate, and maybe I should have run that.
Any incentive from the consumer's power or consumer's
Yes.
energy?
And they, unfortunately, until we actually pull the trigger on the project, they won't give us an exact amount.
No.
So.
Okay, so there is
But there are
potential.
some-
They gave us,
Maybe- would there be
light
even a
bulbs for the whole
grant,
restaurant.
maybe?
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe a grant.
They're-
Yeah.
They've given us some of these downstairs that are on all the time. We have some that are on 24 hours, we converted to LED from the power company.
Mhm. I know that's out there, so that's
But there's
good.
like 6, I think, fixtures that have LED.
I converted my house last year to LED. It cost about $1,000. And it shows in my electric bill, this month I just got, it was $184 for my big old house. So that's really cheap. It used to be $300 maybe this time of year, much more in the summer. So I'm seeing a big savings. I'm incredulous at how big a savings I'm seeing.
Oh, I know they say, but I wasn't questioning that, it was just the period and all that. But I
Right,
get-
yeah.
I get-
It's a sizable investment.
It is, it's,
Okay, so I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to authorize the fire district staff to upgrade station fixtures to LED and add occupancy sensors to all areas not to exceed the amount of $16,700.
Second.
So I've got a motion from Phelps, it sounds really good.
Yeah,
We'll
well,
leave
It's
it alone.
unusual for me, isn't
What Scott said.
And, who seconded?
I did.
We have a second by Aaron Miller.
Some young man.
So, is there any more discussion about LED lights? Okay, could we have a roll call vote, please, Chris?
Absolutely. Phelps,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Meridian,
Yes.
Verplank,
Yes.
Fox,
Yes.
Beckman.
Yes.
And Aldrich.
Yes. Moving on, the 2018 year-end review incident report statistics, no, we didn't.
Which we covered that.
Covered that, yeah.
Okay, now we have a capital plan review. I know Chris was working on that.
The board, you know, should know, and I'm sure you realize this, Chris is a master at spreadsheets. I mean, I think Doug DeBlank and I created this in 2013, first capital plan. Chris takes it to another level. He's just an absolute genius. Like, because with charting, Chris Matthews done a great job.
Take you.
Yeah. So, pretty much what you see, we had to scale this back so you could read it. You got to me. But everything has a life expectancy. and we, in full disclosure, we want to have those things on there. Some of you that were on the board years ago realized I came to you and said I need $240,000 to buy air packs. No money was set aside for the air packs. Eric Beckman has taught me a long time ago, we need to plan for replacements of things. So this is not a static document. This will be changed based on the need, and it gets changed several times a year. But what we did is followed standards, NFPA standards of life expectancy. You have to change out an SCBA in 10 years, you have to change out your turnout gear in 10 years, helmet in 10 years, and this identifies those things. Does it mean you have to if you don't have the money? No, you have to postpone it. But it gives you some sense of budgetary planning, and this is just plain fiscal management, sound fiscal management.
So the red numbers are when a particular item is at least eligible for or planned for.
Yeah, for example, like one of the things, go back, if you can go back to the first page, and you'll see halfway, 2151 aerial, 1999, all right? Those engines, usually 20 years, you're changing them. Well, that's $1 million vehicle. Well, we don't see that happening. So, we can't possibly follow all this. But by ISO, a frontline engine has to be taken off frontline in 20 years. That's something the board wants to know and plan accordingly. So that's kind of how this was crafted. But a aerial isn't a frontline engine. So we can defer that cost and look for a used one, just like we have now. We bought a used one.
So does that mean, for that example, you have $500,000 for that aerial in 2022, 23? Does
Yep.
that mean that's when you would expect to replace it?
It's when we should start thinking about it. Because when you start getting an aerial that's 25, 28 years old, we gotta watch that.
I would think it's also helpful, this plan would be helpful so that you're alert to the year before that,
Start looking.
watch at markets and see if a deal pops up or something,
Mhm.
target of opportunity shows up.
Early on, and when I was chief, I remember several board members saying, Greg, you gotta stop buying used vehicles. And we heeded that advice, thankfully. And, it's a 7-year life on those vehicles. And we don't want to be driving 25-year-old vehicles for first responders. And this board has allowed us to follow that 7-8 year time frame. So we didn't just come up with numbers, we followed standards, and this shows it. Thermal imaging cameras, rather expensive items. The sensor gas meters, everything has a life expectancy, and we did our best to identify those items.
Is this the first time this has been done as a full spreadsheet?
No, I've done it since 2013.
2191 drive engine replacement, just new engines for the fireboat, is that what that is?
What we did is, Chris and we were in Lansing last week in school, and we're looking at this and going, well, okay, if we're gonna follow life expectancy, that boat's 41 years old. Well, I knew I'd probably get hung. I don't wanna replace it.
No.
It's a strong, sound boat. What you might consider doing is repowering.
Repowering.
Yeah.
You have 41-year-old Cummins diesels in there. Linus is our Cummins expert. They aren't even made anymore. But wait till something happens. But we need to think about those things.
Oh, yeah.
The boat is sound. It's surveyed at about $500,000. You got about 120 grand into it with the pump. That's the best boat. You put about 30,000 into it last summer. So that's why I say you got to realize it's a 41 years old on the engines.
And those could go anytime.
They already lost an engine,
Mhm.
right? Starboard engine was blown.
That was,
Does that make sense, Eric?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Our middle boat, the middle fireboat we got used, it's 2000, it's falling apart. literally falling apart. That hard bottom inflatable. So, we took some things out. When I came on board, you have unfunded mandates. You have to change truck tires on trucks. It doesn't matter that it does $4,000 in 4,000 miles in 15 years. You change the tires at a certain age because the cords break down. That wasn't done. So I spent $16,000 on truck tires in 1 year.
Oh, I remember.
So we took that out because we can cover that with maintenance. Furnaces, carpeting, all that stuff, the computers. 5 years is too old for a computer nowadays. So that is what we try to identify in the capital improvement plan.
I was gonna ask about that, 'cause I don't see anything related to buildings.
The building? We have down at the bottom, don't be shocked by this, we're...
Page 2?
Yeah.
Oh, it's page two.
Yeah. I'm like, there's a whole section that says station.
You want a $5 million stake?
You know, we're looking at, what do we do? You know, if we start going around the clock, we need more room to sleep. We can't expand out here without sprinkling. We have to identify, where are we going, what are we gonna do? Is the station too far north? Do we add on to the south, because we own a lot there? So we're figuring $250 per square foot, $300 per square foot, probably is more realistic. So we're just thinking, what is it gonna cost to build another station? And when you look at $5 billion, you may go, we're not gonna ask for a millage for that. But we gotta think about these things. And, you know, we're jammed in a dormitory room right now. You're gonna be housing more people because we're not bringing young people into this area. You're gonna have to bring them from outside to staff.
Can you explain the difference in why the red and black numbers on the bottom two?
Well, the black line allocation is, in a perfect world, this is what you need to set aside to replace something in its life expectancy. The reality is, we can't do that. You need too much money to maintain your capital improvement plan. So the red represents, we need to do this. So the actual expense. So on that column, this one right here, I'm looking at, so we know our umbilical cord is hose, #1 priority hose. We know we're gonna do that, we hope. So that's how that works. Fireboat dock, we actually changed that. We actually had to rob money from that for special events and for our professional fees. So the LED lighting you can see is in there, lighting sensors. These are the things we had in there. Garage door openers, we've been trying to chisel those away because most of them are original. So those things identified in there are what we wanted to focus on if possible.
So how do we get, it looks like, when we get to 2021, that's a big year, 600-some thousand.
Yeah.
So how do we plan for that?
That's where, all right, if you want to take that sheet, Brad, I can elaborate.
Go ahead.
So essentially, that's where we've been putting away the $50,000 a year in our capital savings account now. And so by the time we hit that particular year, we should have cash to buy that particular truck, which I think is engine 2111. Unfortunately, that doesn't work for every case on here where between what we spend a year and what we're putting away in our capital savings, we spend about $250,000 a year on capital outlay. And as you can see at the bottom of the yellow column, you need roughly $332,000 a year. So obviously, we're short by quite a bit. And then in certain years, unfortunately, it just falls that two $600,000 trucks need replacement within a year of one another. Well, obviously, that's not going to mathematically work. So we'll either, and that's where what Dan said, that's where we review this, or I look at it regularly, and we could potentially buy one truck a year earlier and then postpone one a couple of years so they're not all falling the same or something to that effect. But the idea is to try and keep that bottom line close to $200,000 a year in actual expenditures, except in those years where we have the big truck purchases. And hopefully, we'll be in a position to have to take a loan on another engine that we'll be able to pay cash for it when it comes time to replace it.
But we did attempt to have some better equity in the fund balance by purposely saying, we're gonna put $50,000 away in for this, so I don't come to you with, I need this amount of money for a hose, and blindside the board, and we hadn't done that before. So, we were able to do that last year.
The other thing not figured in here too is, for example, like that truck 2111, we could probably conceivably sell the existing trucks, I would say $100,000, somewhere in there, that I don't calculate when I'm budgeting for it. So if and when we get to that point, the actual outlay may only be $500,000 because we'll be able to sell the existing one for $100,000, but we don't know that until we're ready to, you know, put it up for sale and find a buyer that's willing to pull the trigger for that. And also, there's no grants included in this either, that we're still aggressively trying to fund this stuff through other sources, but there is no guarantee that we're gonna get the big checks on the wall every year from FEMA, like we do now, so.
And on the big ticket items, the further out it goes, the longer we keep it, the less we're gonna get for it.
Right.
So, kind of a slippery slope.
But you look on page 2, and you look at the cap plan above the $5 million one. For example, look at the parking lots. Parking lots are original, are 41 years old, okay? This one is starting to really deteriorate, and we had an engineering report on that. You know, that's something the board's gonna have to face sooner or later as a parking lot. Asphalt doesn't last 40 to 50 years, unfortunately. We would be irresponsible if we did not include a plan that included asphalt maintenance. So we tried to identify some of these items and give a cost estimate. And some of this is tough. Look at what happened with metals, stuff that costs 30% now. The fire hose, we got slammed on fire hose with the price increase.
Okay, why don't we, you know, you can take your capital improvement plan home and digest a little and maybe have some more questions next month on this. And let's move into the marijuana facilities discussion.
We pass out a letter. We did receive kind of a roundabout way an email about marijuana facilities, and I mean, we're all for commerce, whatever it is. You know, this fire department does not care what it is. And I think the board should take a position on, you know, we saw an email that said they're going to have these marijuana facilities in areas where there's no water supply. Well, I don't care what they're selling. You know, if we're going to have a business, we have to identify water because everything's going to burn. So what we did is, I'll let you read this letter and then we can talk further. Oh, sorry.
Okay, let me clarify something. Are you talking about, since it sounds like the township, they're gonna build facilities or existing
The
facilities?
email we received were certain zonings, A1 and A2, that they were going to construct some facilities, I believe in
And
township.
it has to be code and has to have the water and all that, right? If
Right.
they build them.
Right,
So that-
but I think they just want to have some affirmation of, you know, is this okay with you? We're perfectly okay with that. When you start processing,
Mhm.
that's a different thing because there's chemicals involved in
Right.
processing. To my knowledge, Stacy, it's growing.
Right,
Right.
so down there by kind of Overijssel there.
Right, and it's grow facilities, so on a commercial application, single-family dwellings is something we'll get to. On a commercial application, whether they're growing marijuana or making water bottles, irrespective, you know, it burns, we need water supplies to do that sort of thing. And, you know, when you start building to the south down there, what they're gonna have to do is start having some sort of tankage for water down in those areas. We actually have some industrial zone areas that have no water supply. One of them is Cal Lake, where Jack Wilson Drive has no water supply. And we have hundreds of
You got the big pond out
storage
there.
buildings.
Several million gallons. You wanna suck it through?
I was under the impression that the state, I don't know how deep they got into fire stuff, but they have loaded up requirements for.
That's correct.
For those places, loaded them up. I mean,
That's correct.
doors, well, you inspected one. Doors that have to be metal and have these kind of locks and air passages and all this nonsense. But it's all state required.
State regulated, I think where we're gonna come in, it's like the school systems, from the wall in is regulated by the state of Michigan, by Laura. Anything exterior, they're gonna come to the fire department, so what do you need to put the fire out, what do you need to get into it? That's what's typical in a state facility.
And this really goes to the very early comment about, or short discussion about the enforcement of local zoning and the fire department's role in and out of that. And as long as the zoning and the inspection is true and the ordinances are set up the right way, this should be a no-brainer.
That's why my response to, is their concern will be, follow the fire code you adopted, because that identifies and addresses what you can do. And that's why it's really a very good balance. Whatever the facility is, it really doesn't matter to us. Processing is a different level. It's more precarious, but again, they are
I
doing
know they're
processing.
not doing
Right,
processing.
I don't think that's in the ordinance. It's safety, it's provisioning, and it's grow. Those are the three areas. What's interesting to consider is, when we were in a meeting Monday, one of the state fire marshals, one of the city fire marshals brought up, they've got a lot of houses that are being sold on the lower end, and they're growing their plants in there. The problem they're having is, the older electrical services can't handle the heat lamps. And they had 3 fires since this thing just...
But again, if your local ordinances are what they should be, that's a home business.
Right.
And that's gonna be covered, and it's probably not gonna be allowed.
I think.
Unless it's legal for it's not home business, if
Well,
they're going to,
there's
now
so
the
many
new rule,
plants.
it's legal personally.
There's so many plants you can
10
have.
plants.
You know, I guess as, not to get in a pissing match with the township again, I think it's a good idea to let them know that you have some concerns. I don't care if it's marijuana or African violets, or whatever the hell you wanna say.
Right.
Just say we have some concerns,
Yeah.
and if they do their job correctly, we won't have any issues.
Right. Really, it was just kind of, you know, we were approached through Scott, and it was really a response. We didn't go to them and say, hey, we want to throw you this down. On the contrary, thanks for asking. You know, we have concerns only that, please, give us a chance to put the fire out, and I can only do that with water. So...
Monday, it's at the planning commission,
Yeah.
it's coming Monday. So is anybody want to go to that meeting and discuss it? I mean, they're actually doing contracts, and, I mean, it's happening, you know, so.
Well, I think you just have to, go on, Dan, I'm sorry.
There's a meeting it's on my calendar, in Allegan, because there's so much confusion and layers of
There is a lot.
regulation and all this, to at least from the state, I think, or from the University of Michigan, I'm not sure who, an area-wide large meeting to kind of, for zoning and planning and
Yeah.
city
Well,
councils.
I read an article in the Detroit paper
Like
a
March.
few weeks ago. A lot of townships and cities are opting in and then controlling it with ordinances. You can make it as difficult as you want.
There are some cities that, so we have the 2015 fire code adopted, okay? The 2018 got 2 chapters in it for marijuana because of what's happened, because they want to cover that. It was an area that nobody covered it before. Marijuana's here to stay in Michigan, great for the commerce, great for a number of reasons. So what happens when you have a facility, you just treat it like any other facility.
Well, the other facility on your list of 3 that you didn't mention is retail. And on-premise consumption, on-premise smoking or whatever changes the game too, because you can't smoke in a bar, but these places, you're gonna almost have to, there's gonna be a lot of smoking going on. And that has fire risk.
Not from my experience, that I've heard, or, I don't
I think
hear a lot of
townships,
that.
I don't know, but you're right, that's a mercantile. And that's no different than selling the ice cream. With the mercantiles, they can't smoke inside those.
No.
I don't know about the other ones.
I
But
don't- not that I've seen.
safety, provisioning, and growing is what's allowed. And when they say grow, that'll be, a larger building. And there's no real, it's not a big thing. You just need water for the building to put it out.
But when it becomes recreationally legal, I can open the Butler too, and we're smoking away.
You can't have any food,
Fine.
so there's no munchies.
They'll come to your place. That's good, we should be partners then, we could, one hand washing the other.
I just think that it's not, I agree, Greg, just let them know you have some concerns, but after that, we have to trust the process.
Right.
The people have spoke, they want marijuana in the state, we have to trust the process.
Exactly.
So your sense here says keep in mind that parts of the township lacks infrastructure, on-site water supplies, may be required. That's per existing ordinance, right? So
Correct.
So I wonder if we should just add that in there. You're not seeing anything that's different than following your existing
There's
ordinance.
no special treatment for this than any other facility. And they're not asking, they're just, the email I saw was, do you have any concerns about these facilities that are going to be built in areas where there are no hydrants? No. We can come up with ways of not, it's not like extending the water main in our other project. There is no water main to extend. I'm assuming, I don't know where these are going. So if there is no infrastructure there, they can do it with tankage.
You probably all read the articles, California and Colorado both finding that the pot of gold is not at the end of the rainbow. Because, in great part because the states with their regulations, among the regulations are testing for the product. And restrictions on the amount of pesticides that can be in the product, which increases the cost of the product, which disincentivizes people from buying that kind, so they grow more in their house, which doesn't get paid tax, no taxes paid on that, and it's like going backwards. Neither of those 2 states has realized the tax bonanza they thought was there.
Isn't there just a recall in Kalamazoo or something?
Mm-hmm.
On marijuana?
Yeah. Well, that's why you do want to test it,
Yeah. Like I said, if they follow the process, it's good to let them know that we have a concern. Just follow the rules and we'll have no problems.
Well, I know Saugatuck's getting their ducks in a row, and I think Douglas is too, aren't you, in planning?
We have medical approved.
We've approved just 2 for medical. Provision.
But I think, we're working on zoning and that kind of thing for where these can be and what can be, so.
I think we're back.
A lot of the fire departments are,
State gets their
it's your state, and what they're doing is just addressing it by updating codes. That's just another subject, but to me, I wouldn't treat this from any other business.
They'll put, somebody
We'll
put
take
in a
their tax-
tomato factory or.
We'll take their tax dollars just like any other business.
If we can track them, we sure.
Is it okay
Well,
to
these are.
submit this letter as written? Is this okay?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right to, the thing with your existing ordinances or whatever, that's an enhancement to the letter, so I did not ask the township to write new ordinances or.
Yeah, so maybe the first one, to adopt it in accordance with the International Fire Code provisions as adopted by ordinance?
Yeah,
something
Adopt
like
it
that.
by your ordinance or about.
We can add
By the
something.
township ordinance.
Yes.
Yeah, the township needs to
So
get the
they don't take it
international
as
fire
like-
code back into.
Something.
But even,
Start
all
even
over.
if it's not, they gotta follow the township codes, which will cover that. They better.
We think. All right, so, moving on,
Okay, we'll revise it. Thank you.
we have no correspondence. Public comments? Anybody in the public want to comment on anything?
Thank you for accepting a second life term as chairman of the fire board.
No, I didn't accept a life term as the chairman.
Large sentence?
Yeah, I like that sounds.
I was wondering, you say it's been 6 years?
6 years.
So my term's about up too, isn't it?
Probably,
You were
yeah.
automatically re-upped.
But you're the member at large, so,
It's gotta be approved by all 3 municipalities if they want me back again. I think it's
Okay.
6 years, wasn't it?
yeah, yeah.
So if
You
you've been here
came
6
on-
years,
You came on after me, so it's probably,
well, I was on before you, but I
But
had to leave and then
leave-
I
You got kicked off.
I got kicked off.
no, you stomped. No.
You-
Stomped out of your
I witnessed it.
You told me I wasn't allowed to.
You got kicked off.
You stomped out of your
You
head
and-
of beer.
you
so
and Lance.
don't Tell me.
Yeah, well,
Okay.
so I went and had a drink.
Okay, I'll look into that.
Yeah, which would probably be a good idea.
Okay. Fire board comments. Aaron?
Nope.
Kathy? No. Scott?
I made mine.
Dave? No. Eric?
Yeah, I wanna, what's the status on the 135th Street thing?
We worked on a plan review.
I haven't talked to Chris in a
Oh,
while.
well, it's not looking great because we had to do the copper pipe improvements that the state is mandating, or the lead pipes, we have to get.
Oh, yeah, that
new one.
Yeah,
There's a
and so,
new-
he-
yeah.
Saving money for that, so we're
Yeah,
gonna do it.
so-
we're gonna do this project half-assed.
Yeah.
well,
The thing
we'll
with
leave it up
this,
again.
Stacy,
You don't have it.
you know, when lead and galvanized pipe was put in,
mhm,
where was the hydrant infrastructure in Saugatuck Township? There wasn't any.
yeah.
This is post-era
Mhm.
of lead and galvanized. I think this is being it's been exaggerated, the extent of your lead and your galvanized pipe thing.
Mhm.
These decisions you're making are 100-year decisions.
Well,
And
yeah.
to not consider a water main because you might have to change 50 lead services?
Well, we're kind of hoping we can wait till our new manager,
Yeah.
who we're hiring February 4th. She's starting, and she, as long as it's approved, and she's gonna be zoning administrator too, and this is the kind of thing that she's really knowledgeable about, and so we're kind of holding back
There's more
a
hydrants
bit.
in the township that, in that era, you know, I talked to Brent Van Oss, who was with the water department 16 years, called from Lansing, and I said, Brent, what's your estimate on this? He said, well, there aren't that many. Well, we can't quantify
Would they
that.
do an engineering study to figure out how
Well,
much
they authorized,
estimate?
they
I think
authorized
so. Well-
$5,500 to Pride Newhoff to come up with a guesstimate of how many there are, and then they'll say, okay, it's gonna cost X amount of dollars to change it.
It won't affect the township like it will the city. I think Saugatuck
Here-
City will probably get hit the hardest,
Mhm.
and then I don't know what'll happen.
Yeah, we're anticipating.
I
some
think
good
we
costs
need
on
to-
that one too.
yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like to-
Connected together, so there's.
Get together again maybe, and, with John, and discuss it
Okay.
again, because we're getting some.
It's obviously, it's up to the township, it's their call on that, but I'd be very cautionary about, I understand being responsible
wanna-
for changing lead services because it's mandated,
Right.
but if you think of the rationale and the common sense, where did you have them? Ravines was post, I mean, I was an apprentice 40 years ago and did lead service, and we stopped it then.
Yeah.
So I guess my original question is, there's been no decision on what's
Well,
going to go
there's
on?
been some discussion, I'll tell you that, but,
Okay.
it's, I think we have to give it another.
Okay, until we get the
Yeah,
new person.
uh-huh.
Good, I'm glad
I
we're
think that would be
waiting.
wise,
Yes.
actually, to wait, because we're having a tough time.
some point- at some
You get
point-
my drift.
It might be a good idea to get that person in here,
Yeah,
not necessarily
oh,
in front of this board,
right.
but with you and tour and all the rest of that.
Yeah.
Probably won't be in their first 2 weeks, but.
I would say you bring the olive branch and say, hey, we
Absolutely.
wanna work with you, and,
Absolutely right.
well, let's
And we're
bygones
not
be.
the bad guys.
Yeah, let bygones be bygones, and that was the previous.
Does the person you're
administration.
hiring have the history or know all that? Oh,
Mhm,
they
yeah,
do.
she's worked in Marshall for years, she's so impressive,
Really
I mean,
impressive resume.
I've
really,
heard
really
that.
impressive.
Yeah, I've heard,
I
yeah, I
mean,
read in the paper.
Good.
Yeah, so I'm really excited about this, so, and I think she's gonna help a lot. There's, you know, it's just been such a crazy transition, so I think it's gonna calm down a little bit. It already is, so, but with her help, I think we're gonna,
So she starts February 4th.
yeah.
That's great.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Can we get a update on status of fireboat dock? No dock.
Wish,
dock.
I wish you could, but I was just talking to Greg about that today, and I talked to Kurt about it over the weekend, and we haven't done anything with it. We seem to be bogged down on bike trail,
On what?
on bike trail, right, so.
Dan's favorite subject?
But
So,
leave it up to government to only be able to handle one thing at a time.
Yeah.
Till you die if you did that at the restaurant, wouldn't you?
They can't multitask.
No.
oh, take it easy now. Not us, can't multitask.
Yeah.
Well, let me, do I understand that the department or the district does not want or cannot use, or the current dock is decrepit and not salvageable? Is that accurate or not?
Yeah, it says life expectancy. What the problem is, it's been lifted so many times and distorted that Lake Construction said he would not pound it back down anymore and straighten it out because it's coming apart. So that's why he notified us maybe 3-4 years ago of that. So we've been trying to plan on a replacement project. So some of the posts that he drove down are actually bent over, and then it's a welded dock, and it's starting to come apart.
The district owns the dock, but Saugatuck owns the waterfront, correct?
No, the city owns the dock, but it's in our agreement that we have to maintain
Maintain.
that.
And the city's in discussion about where to move it to if we have to move it.
Okay.
And
Thank
I'm
you.
only one of 7.
Yeah, and then, I talked to my father, since he's been gone and everything, we'd like to offer you guys to continue the $1 a year lease if the dinghy dock will be suitable. $1 a year lease to use it, if that,
The dinghy dock?
the dinghy dock, yes.
Oh,
I mean, if that's a possibility.
Yeah. I mean,
Be willing to work with you guys that way.
okay. Why don't we get together, if it's all right with the board, we'll get together on the, the width and the length and all that, and see how we can incorporate
Yeah,
it in.
I can incorporate it,
we don't
we're
wanna
willing to help you,
block
you guys
off.
do your budget that
Okay.
you can get for it and everything else, and just continue that.
And we should bring the city in on that.
Absolutely, yeah, they're gonna have to.
Okay. Why don't I get the details from you, and then we can bring them to the city?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks. Thank you.
Anybody else? Anything else?